I'm going. All right. Welcome, everyone, to IQ Podcast Episode 13. Today is a sweaty one. I'm already sweating. I'm already nervous.
Ooh.
My
Nice.
anxiety is through the
Nice.
roof.
Nice. This will probably end up on live stream fails.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna have to change at the end of this episode. These clothes are going right in the hamper.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got my emotional support dog here with me today.
Yeah, this is gonna be a crazy one.
I'm so nervous. I bought a new studio.
I'm fidgeting. I'm starting to fidget. Okay, today is gonna be probably the most, contentious, outright spicy topic that we've covered. We're gonna be talking about a few different levels of toxicity involving the Twitch community, and oh man, I hope we might run a little bit longer today just because of the topic. So without further ado, let's just start. If you guys, we're gonna start talking about one of the biggest pitfalls for viewers, I think, new viewers to Twitch, and that would be surrounding the live stream fails subreddit. It is very easy. So my introduction to this section is basically, it's way too easy to get pulled into the idea that Twitch is just this really toxic place if all you do is consume live stream fails and clips of people breaking TOS or doing crazy things or getting banned. And if your whole picture of what Twitch is just this, I don't know. It's toxic in my opinion. It's it's entertaining. I get why it's popular. I get why this stuff is out there. I know why live stream fails exist. The problem is it can give you a false impression of what Twitch is really like. Do you guys feel that?
Yes.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a danger in feeling like you also as a streamer have to kind of emulate these parts, and these moments, these live stream fail clips are like 30 seconds to a minute of like 6 to 12 hours within a stream. They're not even for the most popular like clipped drama streamers, you're talking about 1 or 2 clips a day, and these people stream a lot. Yep. And it can give you kind of a false impression of what being a Twitch streamer is supposed to be. And it can give you kind of this, I don't know, it's like the worst kind of role model for being a streamer. And I feel like a lot of newer streamers, smaller streamers kind of fall into this trap of thinking that they have to be these really crazy personalities. They want to be on live stream fails or something. And the funny thing is most of the streamers who end up on live stream fails don't like it. Right? Are you guys aware of this at all?
I mean, no one likes being butt of the joke, right?
I guess.
No one likes to be on the receiving end of the roast, as it were. I feel like it's like you said, it's the stuff that makes it onto stuff like live stream fails is such a tiny fraction of what actually happens in most streams.
Yeah.
That it's not really a good indicator of even what those individual streams will be like, much less what the community like as a whole. And yeah, I know it's always funny to see somebody mess up, right, and do something silly. But like, if you're expecting to go into a stream and that's immediately gonna, there's gonna be like chaos and a circus, probably not. I would imagine that's probably not the something that happens as frequently as it's made out to be.
Yeah. So, I mean, generally, I think this is a pretty straightforward part of the discussion, and the less spicy. We're gonna move into more spicy topics. It's pretty well known that live stream fails should not be the goal. I think a lot of people they have some kind of secret desire to end up on there and have some kind of clip because it's a popularity thing. You're like if you're on live stream fails, I guess some people might feel like they made it. And I would just say if you're a streamer, it's probably a good idea just to ignore the majority of that stuff. It's okay to stay kind of in tune with the culture and see what's going on here and there. But I wouldn't put a bunch of stock and effort into your stream for emulating that kind of content at all.
No.
So, with that out of the way, because I don't think we have a whole lot to share on that.
It's exhausting. Don't do it.
The only thing I would say is that it does kind of give I don't want to say necessarily a bad name for streamers in the non, can I say normie, the normies, like the people who don't watch Twitch, right? Can get a false impression of what streaming actually is.
Yeah.
And which if you're trying to like do streaming as a full time thing, right? And your all your family knows about streaming is what they've seen on on media about live stream fails and stuff.
Yeah,
They
that's a
might think, like,
dangerous
"Oh,
thing.
what are you doing out here?" It's like,
Yeah, it's not just dangerous for the streamer; it's dangerous for the viewer, because the viewer can think that that's what Twitch is entirely, and it's not. So that's pretty much. I mean, that was a short section, but do you guys have anything else to add for this?
Live stream fails is basically just like as substantial as Facebook or Twitter like, in terms of what comes out of it. So just don't take too much stock in that. That's just kind of my general takeaway from it.
what's the phrase? The every day the internet has a main character, and your goal is to not be that character.
I haven't heard that, but I like that.
All right.
Yeah, that's good.
So, let's move on to the next kind of section here, which is going to be a little bit more, I think, what it Snazzy's ready.
So ready.
Streamer Twitter. This is another kind of toxic appendage. Like live stream fails is not Twitch, and streamer Twitter is definitely not Twitch. Who wants to kind of talk about this part? I think Snazzy, you go ahead. You start us off. Tell us your general impressions on streamer Twitter.
I think appendage is the right word for it. It's like an atrophied tail that we don't know why we have it, but we just do. Like it doesn't actually serve any purpose. It's like,
let's talk about what
do
streamer
you do?
Twitter is for anybody who doesn't know. Somebody want to give us a?
There is a group of folks out there on Twitter who've decided they've taken it upon themselves to kind of be the sort of representative of streamers on that platform, right? They're the ones who are always commenting about stuff. They're always trying to play themselves up as some sort of authority on streaming. Because hey, I stream every now and then. I just find it funny that a lot of people in streamer Twitter seem to do proportionally less streaming the more tweeting they're doing. Almost as if they don't have time to do both.
Mm-hmm.
I find streamer Twitter to be a place where people complain a lot about how bad Twitch is, and then complain a lot about how bad other streamers are, and complain a lot about how they're not as successful as they want to be. And there's not a lot of positivity, and that's really the downside of streamer Twitter. There's aspects of it that can be informative, but it's like going to a really bad thrift store, right? You have to sift through so much garbage to find anything useful. It really is.
And the best part is because obviously due to TOS, they can't actually really. You're not supposed to name names, right? You're not actually supposed to call somebody out on Twitter.
So they're safe.
They can come after you if you call somebody out by name. So there'll be a lot of what do the kids call it? Subtweeting? Is that what the youth are calling it? There'll be a lot of references to things that, and a lot of times they'll expect everyone to kind of know what the situation is, but a lot of times it's just confusing because you didn't see the same stream they were watching, right? And you have no idea what they're talking about. But boy golly, are they animated about it?
Yeah, and so if your whole idea of Twitch is this Twitter feed of people who are, let's say, for instance, recently they're always complaining about something. Something is wrong with Twitch, and Twitch needs to change. Twitch needs to get their act together. It's like they think they're like the police or the accountability group, and Twitch doesn't change ever because of these tweets. It doesn't do anything.
It doesn't. It doesn't. It's like I said, they try to play themselves up as some sort of authority on streaming, when in actuality they're just, I don't want to say low-level streamers, but a lot of them are. A lot of them are, probably under partnership levels, which is 75 viewer average. So we're talking about streamers who, on a good day, they'll get 50, 60 people in chat, right? And that has its own merits, but that's not really a representative of what streaming is, especially for the more successful streamers, right? Partners who have hundreds of people in their chat every day. You'll notice that, or at least I've noticed, a lot. Those people don't go on there and make drama. Those people aren't on streamer Twitter 24/7 complaining about their newest gripe, right? They're busy streaming. They're busy actually, producing content for their audience, right? It just seems like a lot of these people have a lot of time on their hands and a very hardcore disdain for the platform they're on. It's this really weird, fascinating thing where they're on Twitch, but boy, they just like nothing about Twitch.
Yeah,
and it's a little puzzling why they're there in the first place, right?
Yeah.
There's such a role for constructive criticism, right? There's a role for being thoughtful about changes that would be useful and informative. But I think one of the things that's really challenging about streamer Twitter is they'll take a piece of, like a line item from Twitch and blow it up into this thing that's completely not what the intended thing that's happening is. And then it gets retweeted and distorted. It's like a weird telephone game where it sounds like you're making less money in this situation, for example, but that's not actually the case, but you're not going to read more than 100 characters. Right, so it distorts a lot of things that happen too. Is Twitch perfect? Absolutely not. But I think that Twitch is a tool, and it's a very useful tool. And just to sit back and just nitpick everything about it is it's disheartening, and it's a big challenge when you're trying to find useful information about what's going on too.
Looks like we're having connection issues. I'm gonna change servers real fast. And hopefully that brings... Oh. Discord is now freaking out.
Yay!
There's Snazzy.
Big face.
I'm missing Pickles.
Technology.
Beautiful. Well, will we get Pickles back? Yeah, streamer Twitter is just one of those dangerous places to spend. I think people can just spend way too much time. I can't seem to get... I think Discord's just having issues. Let me try the East Coast.
Okay.
There we go. So now we just need Snazzy. There we go. East Coast is good. It's better at least. Yeah. So, streamer Twitter. We have... I don't really have... When I go to Twitter, I don't really see streamer Twitter that much. What happens is I see people who kind of react to streamer Twitter, and then I'm always kind of confused about what's going on. But I do know, generally speaking... Oh, welcome back, Snazzy. Generally speaking, the streamer Twitter drama... Every time I've seen a thread, it's just why are they arguing about? Why are we discussing this? Snazzy, your stream is gone, by the way. I'm gonna bring it back. Should we wait for Snazzy, or you guys want to?
No, let's keep talking.
Yeah,
the show must go on.
Show must go on.
So I think a lot of streamers can get caught up in this circle on streamer Twitter without realizing that it's just super negative. And it can be easy to be dragged into there. And there's just tons of bad advice as well. It's the same circle of bad advice over and over again, where you have, what's the bad advice that you guys always see? Act like there's 1,000 people watching your stream.
My favorite one is start YouTube. You gotta have a YouTube.
Start YouTube. Yeah.
You gotta have a YouTube. You gotta do all your stuff on YouTube.
It's like half advice.
Migrate the viewers over, and it's like, which at a certain point, that's fine. Like when you hit a certain level of viewership and size, that's important.
I think YouTube is important, but not because of Twitch, but because of not putting all your eggs into one basket as a creator.
Absolutely. But I think if you're just starting out, though, if you're a streamer who's literally, you're 2 months into Twitch, right? You barely gotten your sea legs, as it were. Like, you don't need more stuff on top of that, right? Like, figure out the streaming thing first, and then worry about YouTube.
True.
Then worry about these other side avenues, as it were, right?
True.
Yeah. The bad advice is always like grow on this platform in order to grow this platform in order to grow that platform in order to grow that platform. That's the bad advice.
Yeah.
That I think.
And I think too, it's like
talking about.
It's like blanket statements out of context too.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Very general,
yeah, it's so generalized. It's so like, if you want to succeed, you should do this, and it's just like this tiny little blurb of like a huge blanket statement. Like, like YouTube, it's reasonable for a lot of people, but for some people, it's not really a reasonable avenue to go down, whether it's time or division of resources or anything like that. So there's a lot of advice that is very kind of cookie cutter, number one, but also just unindividualized and probably hurtful for some people if they applied it based on their content as an individual, their abilities and resources as an individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can spread yourself way too thin.
I feel like when it comes to streamer Twitter, their advice is like a horoscope. It's so like,
that's me.
I can read a random horoscope and tell you, hey, this is a Libra, and all the Libras would be like, oh, that's me. Like, okay, sure. Never mind that I picked one at random, right? It's like that. It's like you said, like the blanket statements, right? It's just like, oh, you need to grow your other platforms. I'm like, well, yes and no. Like, what does that actually mean? Like, how many other platforms should you have? How much growth should you put into them? How much of your focus should be on those things? Because at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, you grow most when you're live. Okay, you grow most when your face is on the screen and you're interacting with folks and they're stopping by your chat, watching you do stuff and interacting with you. That is going to be the chunk of your growth. Doesn't matter what you do anywhere else. That is where the majority of your growth will be.
Yeah.
So how much of that time you want to sacrifice to do other stuff is highly personal.
Mm-hmm.
It's highly unique to everybody. Everybody's situation is unique, right? So a blanket statement just doesn't work. Just saying grow your YouTube or whatever, grow on Twitter is nonsense. It really is like a horoscope.
It's not enough. It's not a plan, and it's just an easy like, listen to me, look at me, I know how to give you good advice. It's more in the realm of like propping up the person who's tweeting to seem like they know what they're talking about than it is something you can just take and apply and to your content creation strategy and make work.
It's non-advice, like anti-advice.
Well, it's advice that, in the hopes that I think for a lot of people on Twitter especially, it seems like a lot of these general statements are meant to kind of bait you in and be like, this is the general statement, like, okay, well, I want to learn more. It's like, well, aren't you in luck that I am selling this $60 course
which we'll get to.
That's what it seems like a pipeline to other things.
It's a bit of a bait and switch.
And the other side of things too is the attempt for controversy, right? So the idea that you'll tweet something super controversial and hope that it gets retweeted a lot, right? And I think that's a bait in a totally different way, So it may not even be a true opinion that individual holds, but they know it's something that's gonna boil some blood. So they just say something, completely don't ever, stream with a camera. You shouldn't do that because blah, 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 blah. Or don't have an intro or whatever, right? Because it causes an uprising, and there's a hopefulness, I think, that some people have that it'll transfer over to attention, essentially. which it works
Yeah.
sometimes, but if for the right reasons.
What's that phrase? Any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I disagree.
they say
But,
that.
like that's the prevailing thought, right? As long as people are talking about you, it's good. I personally think that's not the way to go, but some people seem to take that to heart.
Well, I mean, stirring up controversy can work for like a minute, but it always goes away. So you have to stir up more controversy.
Keep stirring, yeah. That's
Yeah, and then you're just known as this controversial figure instead of, is that what you want to be known for? But
Yeah,
it's not really about streamer Twitter. It's about streamers falling into this trap of listening to streamer Twitter and getting caught up in the arguments and trying. It can even go the other ways. Streamer Twitter can make you feel like you need to say something back at it, and that's what they want. That's exactly what they're trying to get you to do, is to engage with what they said. And you're way better off, like Snazzy said, go and stream. You're not going to grow your stream by convincing this guy who has 30 viewers, that's a Twitter expert and a part of some coaching team thing, that he's wrong and that his take is not totally encompassing. It's just a waste of energy. Like, this is why I don't pay attention to streamer Twitter.
and just given its nature, Twitter is one of the worst places to have an argument or a discussion.
True.
It's just that it's not designed for that.
Yeah.
And that's just not because of the character limit. It's also the algorithm and like who sees it and what you see and what comes up first in your feed, right?
Yeah.
Like, you might see the end of a thread before you see the thread. Twitter is a terrible place to have a discussion of any kind, much less an argument. So yeah,
Twitter is a terrible place. I agree.
Yeah. So we got a kind of natural segue here into the other section that's typically attached to this, which is the advice giving, coaching, buy my ebook, join our streamer coaching thing, sign up, whatever it is. I'm sure that there's some people out there that are worth giving your money to and listening to them and getting some advice. But the problem is the most popular and the loudest ones seem to be snake oily in how they do things.
Well, they're the people that are loudest on streamer Twitter. So like they'll cry, they'll make a big stink, they'll point out some sort of thing about Twitch, like, oh, Twitch needs to do this, that, and whatever. Listen to me, I know. Buy my book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's usually the order in which those tweets go,
and
or how that plays out.
It kind of comes off as I don't know. They're preying on people.
Yeah, it's predatory.
That's really the biggest problem here. Is it's not just that there's toxicity through the streamer Twitter. They're trying to get your attention so that you'll join or buy their ebook or join their coaching seminars.
It's really insidious because it picks on the like the what's the word that I'm looking for here? Like
the naive,
but yeah, like the most vulnerable streamers, right? The streamer just starting out, right? The guy who has 2 viewers and is trying to figure out how to get to affiliate, or the affiliate who has maybe 10 viewers and is trying to figure out what the next plateau jump is supposed to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like, I don't want to say that there's desperation for some people, but like it does build to that level where, like, because if somebody's been streaming for a year and they haven't been able to move out of that little cross section of Twitch that they're in, they might very well start turning to anyone and everyone that they think might be able to provide them with some advice. And unfortunately, there's a lot of actors there who are ready and waiting to sell you an ebook for $60 or whatever,
Yeah, or a set of classes or something.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not even that their information is ever like always bad, right? There's definitely some fair information available. The thing is, most of the information that they have available that they'll provide is already readily available and at free.
Yeah.
So they're packaging information that already exists and offering it as like this little, like, Emperor's new clothes. Like, well, if you buy it this way, then it's guaranteed to be helpful.
Well, I think that they have in their head they're thinking, well, I'm giving you my time to take you through the information. Like they have these worksheets, and they have this stuff that they make you like critically think of. And I do think that there's some value in like spending time with somebody who can help you critically examine what you're doing, but it's not personalized enough in my opinion, because it's the same like cookie cutter process with every streamer. And it can help people get out of like that initial hump and make people feel like it's working. Like they can go from 2 to 10 to 15ish viewers, and now they feel like, well, okay, the streamer coaching worked. I got growth, because they gave them advice on like, you're not talking enough, and what is your plan? They helped them kind of get a little bit better organized around everything, and figure out how to use the different platforms to get just a little eke out a few more viewers than they would have had if they had just kept streaming on their own, and clean up their stream a little bit. But it's not like you're going to go through this streamer coaching program and end up a partner. That's very rare. And it's very expensive, I think, what they're asking. For the most part, it's hundreds of dollars. Like, I don't know, last time I checked, it was like $600 or something. And that was the discount. Like,
it's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
A lot of money.
When a lot of people need to probably spend more of that money on like a better stream setup or computer or lights or that kind of stuff. And that would have just as much of an impact on your growth. Having a better camera, having better lights, these things everything you do to improve your stream adds up. Even spending time with streamer coaches, but it's not this, it's not going to suddenly give you this explosion of growth. And the real problem is the majority of streamers are not growing, not because their stream doesn't have good lighting, good camera, good sound, good whatever. It's because they're making bad decisions, and those decisions can't be copied and pasted between streamers. A lot of streamer growth is an individual experience. What you need to do to grow your stream is not going to be the exact... If we were all doing the exact same thing to grow our streams, they would be the exact same stream over and over again, and that's not what actually people want to watch. The nice thing about Twitch is the variety. Like, that you go from one person, and they have their stream, and it has that feeling, and it has this expression, and you go to this stream, and it feels like that person and their expression. And the value of Twitch is that it's not cookie cutter. It's not copy and paste. When I see the same alerts on a bunch of streams over and over again, like they downloaded a package, one of these like streamer packages, RIP sponsorships for this podcast. But
yeah,
when I see them over and over again, it starts to feel like not individualized enough. And I'm not getting to know the streamer. It's just like you're starting to just see this copy and paste like activity, and then how they act on stream seems disingenuous as well, right? So there's not a lot that a coach can do to help you pull your personality out. If you have like a weak personality and you're not good on camera, there's not a whole lot like you can do to fix that, right? That's kind of like an innate thing.
But I think that's part of the problem is like, especially when you're, these coaches are asking you for money, it seems to me like a lot of them are then afraid to tell you what you actually need to hear, right? Because they don't want to upset the people that are now paying them, so they'll tell them like, oh yeah, play what you want, stream what you want, stream what makes you happy. It's like, well, no, sometimes that's not what's going to get you growth. Sometimes you need to change things up a little bit, or you need to play a certain game that's not oversaturated. We always say like, oh, don't stream Fortnite. Yeah, it's because like Fortnite has how many millions of people playing it, how many thousands of people streaming it. It's like you're not gonna grow playing Fortnite unless you get really, really lucky. You might love Fortnite, you might love Call of Duty, but that's not where your growth is going to be, especially when you're starting out. So
yeah,
it just feels like a lot of these coaches like are afraid to tell people that, because a lot of like you said, the cookie cutter stuff you see is like, oh yeah, play what you want. Stream whatever you want. Stream what makes you happy. Do this, do that. It's like you need to think critically Whenever somebody gives you advice, anybody, myself included, and all of us, whenever somebody gives you advice, you need to ask yourself, like, what is their motivation for telling me this, right? Like, where are they coming from? Like, are they getting, like, is there money involved? Are they being reimbursed? Are they pushing a product? Like, what is the motivation behind the advice that they're giving? And then you have to think about, will that work for me? Because, as Meat said, it's not all bad advice.
So let's bring up the elephant in the room. Because what you just said, this is a good time to talk about. IQ itself was kind of started as a reaction to streamer Twitter and these coaches. And yes, we have a Patreon. And yes, people fund IQ. So obviously it's going to seem like maybe we're hypocritical here because we have this motivation to grow IQ and, because we have an application process and we have a Patreon. Obviously, we're doing the same thing. But the main core difference, I think, between what IQ is trying to offer and the streamer coaches is, first of all, IQ is completely free. You can join it, and you have to apply to join, and you have to be accepted as a member. But if you join IQ and you become a member, it's completely free. The Patreon is optional, and there's literally no benefit to the Patreon. It's just, hey, if you want to support what we're doing, if you like what we're doing, here's a way to give us $5 a month, kind of thing. There's the other part of this is that streamer Twitter is kind of like a closed system, whereas Infinite Quality is a peer review type of situation. Like, we're literally putting everything out in front of the entire community and asking for feedback. We want peer review. We want you to correct us when we're wrong. We want to have the deeper conversation about this stuff. It's really more about the conversations themselves than the answers. You find the answers in the difficult conversation, and we have, like Snazzy's saying, the coaches are not incentivized to give you the difficult advice. And so a community like Infinite Quality allows us to have these discussions about the difficult advice, come to the more complicated conclusion, and say, hey, you can't stream whatever you want. And because our motivation is now you being successful and for us to figure out the answers together through like on an honest, open, peer-reviewed discussion about it. We want the correction. The streamer coaches, they come at this like they already have the answers and like, just pay me for them. So
which to be fair, it's also like there's nothing wrong with being paid for your work, right? If a streamer coach is putting in effort and compiling all this information into easily usable chunks and stuff, like, they still deserve to be compensated. There's nothing wrong with being compensated for your work. It's just like you have to think about why a person would suggest something to me or to you or to anybody else, and then go like, will that work for me? Is this something that I can apply? Is this actionable to where I am versus where any number of people that they're trying to snag in the net, right? Because like that's what it is. Advertising is a broad net. You cast the net out hoping to catch as many people as you can, right? And it's not always going to work for you. It's not always going to work for someone of your size or viewership. So it helps to think critically.
And I think
it's about.
Go ahead.
It's about creating a formula, right? So a lot of coaching opportunities are based off very formulaically, and that's the easiest way to get the most for how much work they're doing. It's very business model intelligent, right? How they're structuring it is very intelligent from a way to make money. Is they create a formula that helps people kind of, and some people more, and a lot some people less. But it's easy to implement, right? It's easy to get other people to use the formula as well. It has that MLM sensation about it, where you create something where you motivate people to start stream coaching as well. And I've seen this, right? I've seen plenty of stream coaches that have started advertising, well, if you're struggling to be a streamer, maybe become a stream coach, right? And it really, I've seen it. I've absolutely 100% seen it. And it starts to get very MLM-y, right? But it's that application of a formula that helps some people. And honestly, you throw enough spaghetti at the wall, right? You have enough monkeys typing on a typewriter, you're going to create Shakespeare. So you're going to have some success stories. right? And then they rest their laurels on those success stories. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky, because you're right, it's not necessarily individualized. And of course, we're talking very general. There's plenty of people, I'm sure, that do stream coaching that are much more invested and individualized, but it's more a cautionary tale of being thoughtful and doing your research and really thinking about what your perceived benefits and risks are of engaging in a relationship with someone where you're paying them to help you. What are you really getting out of it? What's their true motivation? And that, when you're desperate maybe for viewers, when you're new and don't really understand that, the entertainment industry has had this forever, right?
Yep.
Modeling was a huge one like 20, 30 years ago, where you would pay a couple $1,000s and they'd take your headshot and they'd teach you how to walk on the runway, and you'd never get an actual job, but you got all the skills that you needed, right? It's just transitioning to a modern day platform. Modeling still does that, but much less so than it used to, because we have
DSLRs
cameras on our
very
phones
common.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the same concept. It's just revolutionized to today's form, where they prey on vulnerable people that want an easy way of becoming successful, and they use a formula that seems like it works, and it costs a fair amount of money. And they pull these little success stories, and that's the big challenge, right? Because it's very easy to fall into that trap. And you don't want to be that person.
Yep. And there's plenty of room, I think, for people to create a business for streamers, to work with streamers. I think a lot of streamers do need help. And they need more help than they realize most of the time. But it's like, it's not advice. It's like, it's technical stuff, like what microphones would be acceptable, and how do I set up OBS to look good, and stuff like that. Or even just like a social media person, an editor for videos, so they can expand their content creation and get BRB videos and things like that going. Streamers all need help. All streamers need help, and it's not always a paid thing. A lot of times this could be a mutually beneficial relationship for the editor. And like, I know streamers who have editors that are just people in their community. They make YouTube videos for them, or they make their BRB videos or whatever. Or you guys have a relationship with me, where if your stuff breaks and you want some kind of animation made for your stream or something, or like you want a website that's functional, that kind of stuff. Like, there's obviously good business relationships a streamer can have with people. The problem is, I think, when you have this copy and paste situation, and these streamer coaches are just trying to get as many people as possible to sign up for their classes, and it's not individualized. It's not a real business relationship. It's almost more similar to, like, the timeshare thing, where they just like try to get you to come in and then sign up for a timeshare. This is a great investment, and you're investing in your stream, you're investing in yourself, and yeah, that stuff can be helpful. But
and I think also, like, for a lot of people, right, unless they come from an entertainment background of some sort, a lot of people, when they just get into streaming, are new, like, right, they're ignorant of how the entertainment industry works, right? I'm prepared to bet for a lot of people, before they start streaming, their only interaction with another business was working for someone, right? You get a paycheck, you do work, X amount of work, you get paid, right? Like, and the entertainment industry is wildly different. Like, the entertainment industry is just like the complete opposite of like what you would expect, like, when you're getting into it, right? And it's like, I think a lot of people are just inexperienced with the fact that somebody who's on the surface giving you advice, and it sounds like they're trying to help you, might actually have this other motivation of, hey, I'm trying to get you to do a thing so that I make money, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's how they earn their living, right? So I think that there's that to consider as well.
Yeah. Oh man, so that's a oh man, it's a spicy topic, that's for sure. We're not trying to. I would love to see. Let me say it this way: I would love to see streamer Twitter and these streamer coaches figure out something that benefits their clients as much as they're trying to benefit themselves in whatever they're doing. and I would like to see this all turned around. It would be nice if these people would figure out ways and means that would actually help people. But streaming is such a highly competitive thing, and I don't think everybody is as cut out for success in streaming as they think. And so it's always going to have a level of this, predator-prey relationship for if these people's main business model and clients are streamers. If you're especially brand new streamers who don't know anything, it would be nice to see these people find a way to work with streamers that know how to break through and be successful a little bit on their own without like the beginner coaching classes and stuff, and move towards actually working with streamers that can be successful and just need that boost. I think there's actual room there for a good business relationship, and it's kind of disheartening for me to watch these people that are supposed to be the largest influence in the teaching and streamer educational space focusing on trying to just help the smallest streamer become a slightly smaller streamer, like slightly less small of a streamer, and loose them of $600 every year for different coaching classes. Or
a slightly larger streamer, which is
yeah,
what we all want.
And someone from chat kind of mentioned the idea of there a lot of times those are going for quantity, not quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, having a small clientele that you're focused on is a very reasonable model, right? Especially if you are going to charge a bit more, but it's a lot harder to justify, an individualized approach on a lot of people. People typically can't do it, and that also begs the question that I don't know if we want to talk about is like, who should be a stream coach?
Yeah.
I have some thoughts on that, yeah.
Yeah, who should be a stream coach?
Because some people have the opinion that anyone can be a stream coach if you just take this little model and you apply it, and you can help other people and make money as that instead of streaming if you're struggling as a streamer.
And I have some essential oils to sell you. So.
And I've got a bridge that you might be interested in.
I got a swamp in Florida for sale.
Yeah.
So
I think the whole premise of, like, as Meat said, like, some people who are like, oh well, you're struggling, you're streaming, maybe give you your hand at coaching. It's like, you can't throw a spiral worth a damn. So instead of being a quarterback, why don't you be a linebacker instead? It's like, that's not. I mean, yes, you're still at least in the same sport, but like that's not exactly something that you are necessarily going to be good at just because, like, hey, I've streamed once. I know what streaming involves. I don't think that personally makes you qualified to then be able to coach somebody else and tell them, like, hey, this is what you need to do, right? I feel like you need to have some moniker or some measure of success, in order to say, like, hey, here, I know what I'm talking about, right?
Even then, I feel like it's kind of a dangerous endeavor to say that you've figured out Twitch ever.
Has anyone figured out Twitch?
Right. I think there's actually, like I said earlier, the space for streamer coaches is in things that are more solidified, like how to set up your computer properly and what programs can be helpful and microphones, that kind of advice. That stuff's okay. It's when you start getting into like these weird, like, there is helpful advice, but I'm not sure it's worth money, and I'm not sure that you can actually create a coaching system that you can repeat. Even for, like, let's say you found a streamer that figured out how to grow to 1,000 viewers. What they did may not be something anyone else can do.
Right. Because it's what they did during that time in that space that they did it, that triggered it, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult, too, because I think different streamers, and kind of to speak to what you were talking about, Sunny, different streamers may have different needs, right? And different coaches may have different strengths. And I think part of it is finding where your needs lack and where the strengths of that individual that's available for services excels, right? So, like, Sunny, for example, is very technologically, adept at fixing all of my blunders and telling me which buttons to press and how to fix things, right? But from like the interacting with chat perspective, I'm pretty comfortable with that, right? But you might have someone that is able to run a stream really smoothly, but struggles more with the interaction and the persona aspect, right? So they're going to have different needs than I would potentially, right? I'm certainly not perfect at any of those fields, but for an example, right? So having that insight, or maybe finding someone that can offer that insight, which I think we talked about before with, having a trusted individual give you feedback and trying to determine where your shortcomings are, and find someone who has a service that complements where your shortcomings are. It can be thoughtful and useful. So we're certainly not saying like don't ever pay anyone for any services. That'd be really hypocritical of us actually to say that. But just being thoughtful about where your true needs are and what resources you have to tap into.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
It always makes me nervous whenever anybody does come to me for advice, and they'll be like, "Hey, Snazzy, like what do you think I should do to grow my channel?" I'm like, dude. It's like economics. Nobody actually knows. People have theories, right? People have theories, but they don't really know, right? Figuring out Twitch I think is an impossible task, because it's in a very real way, it's like a living organism. Like it changes constantly. It's in a constant state of flux, right?
Yep.
And to be able to pin it down and say like I've figured out Twitch. Here's the magic formula.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that can. I just don't think it's possible. I mean, it's not possible in any other entertainment sector, right?
Yeah.
To figure out. So like, why would streaming be any different?
Yeah, and going to what someone said in the chat about IQ coaching being the best coaching, I mean, it may seem like coaching, because it may sound like the same advice, but we're not charging you $600 for 6 meetings to get it, and we're also just kind of having a discussion about these things rather than setting up some formulaic questionnaire that is supposed to help you break out of 2 viewers into 12 viewers. And
it's important to note also, like, IQ isn't the only place necessarily that you can go and find that. Like there are plenty of other like stream teams who I've from experience, that other people have told me like, hey, I joined a team and it helped me, I was able to get advice from this person and this person. It's like, yeah, it's all about thinking critically about the advice you're receiving.
Better than coaching. It's always going to be better to have just critical feedback and people that can help you think about what you're doing and see what you're doing right and see what you're doing wrong. That's the value that we hope to bring, at least as a community. And streamer coaches, the biggest issue is that they do have just a formulaic approach to everything. It's not individualized enough. They just want you to kind of go through their system, and it's that system. Like that's why I'm saying I don't think you can find a streamer, even a successful one, that has the answers for the next streamer's success. I think it's way too complicated for that. And there's luck nobody even accounts for how much luck is actually involved with the success of a stream, or just circumstances that are not repeatable. Like if I were to turn on my stream and everyone in my family supported me, I'd have twice as many viewers. And that if someone can do that, turn on the stream and all their friends and all their family and everybody watches because they're trying to be supportive. I mean, how many streamers actually have that kind of support? They don't. So you can't go and say, hey, well, just go convince everybody to watch your stream. It doesn't work. It's not advice.
Absolutely.
And a lot. Go ahead.
So this kind of fades off of that. I think too, if you even just look at YouTube and singers on YouTube, right? I think if this is a really good example, there are some phenomenal, beautiful, talented singers, right, that post YouTube videos of originals, of covers, and they never pop off. Mm-hmm. And it is not due to a lack of talent. It's not even due to a lack of production value. It's just they didn't pop, right? And sometimes there's just nothing you could have done. They are incredible that it just doesn't happen, right? And I think that's the frustrating part of entertainment is you can do everything right from a formula perspective, and it just may not happen. Mm-hmm. Right? And we hate to think that.
You could be the most interesting streamer on the planet, but if no one clicks your name, right? Or if
For
not,
whatever
or
reason.
rather, if not enough people click your name.
Yeah. Absolutely. We always feel like we're going to win the lottery, right? It's a psychological phenomenon where if you buy a lottery ticket, even though it's 1 in 20 million, you still think you might win.
I have a chance. There's
You
a
have
chance.
a chance. And this is a lottery, right? You have to buy a ticket, but it's still a lottery. And I think that's one of the things that people struggle with too, is realizing that you can do everything right and it's still not going to work. You know, and that's okay.
So another extension to this is there's, it's a less obvious route, but there's also a lot of YouTubers, speaking of YouTube, giving bad advice on how to grow your stream. And again, I think it's just because how to grow your stream is just so difficult. There is no like one YouTube video you can watch to figure it out. There's definitely good videos out there to help you figure out what not to do. It's much easier to tell people what not to, like, don't play oversaturated games. But, you know, yeah, like Jean-Luc Picard says, you can do everything right and still lose, you know?
And it's easier to say, like, don't, even like, you know, when people ask me, like, it's easy to say, yeah, don't play an oversaturated game. But then, like, if the question is, well, what game should I play? Then it's like,
yeah,
because that requires research, that requires thought, that requires sitting down and doing some math and calculations. I know math is scary. And that's why, like, when you have, you know, these, I want to say mass market, like mill type systems that these coaches come through, where they're just producing as much as they can for as many people as they can. There's no way you could sit down and give somebody enough time to customize that formula for them, right? It's impossible. And I think even with some coaches, I think some people probably start out with good intentions, like, oh, I have an idea, like how I can improve, you know, like how I can get more people, more views, but then it just kind of spirals out of hand because then they get in too deep, right? They get in over their heads, and all of a sudden, you know, that's what they're now known for, right? Is the streamer coach guy, and it's like,
yeah,
you have to be really careful about. Once again, it just to reiterate, always be thinking about whether or not any advice you hear is actionable for you right now.
I like that.
And if it isn't, you could file it away for later and say, like, oh well, I'll revisit this when I figure out how to get to X amount of viewers, or how to, like, when I'm actually have enough time in my stream to do a YouTube, then I'll file this away for then, right? But for now, here's what I need to focus on. And it's really just prioritizing what is going to help you versus what could help you.
Yep. This is definitely, it's a deeper I think the scary part is the easy answers make you feel like if you just do this thing, it's going to start working. And it can be, you can like turn on your stream and have made that small adjustment, or maybe started using Twitter differently, and then your viewership goes up by a couple of people and you think it's working. And then, you know, another year goes by and you're still only at those few extra viewers. It's very dangerous because Twitch is all over the place. You could do everything right for weeks and not grow at all, and then suddenly start growing, and you didn't change anything. It's all over the place. Viewership moved all over the place. People always want to make decisions based upon, like, oh, I played this game for, you know, an hour and nobody was watching, and it's like, dude, nobody was going to watch the first hour of your stream anyway. Like, you don't know that's the reason. Like, you need to give it a little bit more time. If you play the game for 3 hours and nobody's watching, then yeah, maybe you're in the wrong game category. But you need to give, like, Snazzy's right. You have to spend time figuring things out and come up with a good plan, and figure out why you want to do things, and a good motivation for it. And it still has to be you. It has to be your stream. At the end of the day, the streamer coaches are trying to take responsibility for your growth. And if you grow on Twitch, it's because of you. It's always because of you. No one's going to grow your stream but you. These streamer coaches are not, on some other level, want to take credit for giving you for your growth. And that's the part that I find the most distasteful, actually. It's like, We have this very clearly in the IQ FAQ on the website. It says you're responsible for your stream. There is nobody in IQ. There's no community you can join that's going to make your stream take off. It's never going to happen. There's nothing. Everything that happens on your stream, as far as success, is because of your decision making or just luck. Outside of that,
I mean, even if you had a magic formula, right? Even if somebody were to invent a surefire way to succeed on Twitch, right? You still have to execute. You still have to figure out where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, what you could do to improve. It's like, if you're the kind of pro gamer, who's there to show off how good he is at video games, that's going to be a lot different than somebody who's a much more, like a chatty person who's just looking for an audience to, interact with. Like, you got to figure out what your stream is before you can figure out how you can improve it, right?
Yes, because if you don't have to be good at video games.
You know, as most of us here can attest, you can be really bad at video games.
Yeah. Yep. That's definitely true.
One other thing that I think we should take a moment to talk about too is the number one, the follow for follow culture a little bit. I think that's been fairly definitively spoken on, but if you're a newer streamer, maybe it is something worth speaking about. And then I don't know if you guys ever see them, but those ads of grow your stream with these restreams and all these weird apps and stuff that I see on Facebook and on ads and stuff. And I don't know much about them, but it certainly could see it as something that a newer streamer may be tempted to look into, right? And participate in. And I think, after school special about not doing that kind of stuff might be worth at least mentioning.
Follow for follow doesn't work.
Period.
Yeah. Tell us why, Pickles.
Because your follower count, after you hit 50, your follower count doesn't matter at all forever. If you want to make it a personal thing to be okay, I need to hit these milestones, sure, that's a way to measure that you're getting more followers, but it doesn't actually mean anything unless your viewer count is going up. To me, the viewer count is the number you want to measure.
So that would be lurk for lurk.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Why does lurk for lurk not work?
Lurk for lurk doesn't work just because it's artificial. You could be sitting there with 100 people and nobody chatting, and then it's just awkward, right?
Yeah. It doesn't work because the moment those people move on to lurk in a different stream and not in your stream anymore, you've lost all those people. They're not real viewers. So it doesn't do anything to actually bolster your community. They're
not there for you. They're there for themselves because they expect you to do the same thing back.
Mm-hmm.
It's whenever you see it on Twitter, right? You could literally see the outline of the cookie cutter, as it were, when they post hey, small streamers connect with each other. If you look at bullet point, usually it's around bullet point number 4. The first 3 would be post your Twitch. Number 2 is follow everyone here, and usually the third or fourth bullet point would be follow me. Follow me as well. It's you can exactly tell when somebody's basically they're not doing that for actual engagement. They're hoping that you'll follow them and then you'll lurk them and you'll watch them. And then they're hoping that somebody else will do that for you so they don't have to.
And it's actually...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's actually in the community guidelines that this is against the rules.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It says any kind of artificial number, increasing your viewership through any artificial means, including organizing it in any way, is against the rules. So
there have been historical cases of people doing that to get partnership.
Yeah.
But I don't think that flies anymore, number one. And that's different. I want to just mention, though, that that's different than what we talked about last week, right? When we talked about that kind of organic marketing and supporting fellow streamers that resonate with you and being a part of a community. That's a very different thing than follow for follow, where literally you were hitting the follow button with the intention of that person recognizing that you hit that button and them doing it back, where you guys don't actually, it's like ships passing in the night. Right. And that is a very different approach than community building. So there is a delineation between those two that you have to think about, but there certainly 100% is.
And I think
the key difference in what you just said is organic part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to build a relationship with the streamer. You don't want, because follow for follow is as surface level as it gets. Because you can just like go down the browse page and hit follow on every single one of those people, and it's not going to make any difference to anybody.
Yep.
No, it's
But like
transactional.
actually, yeah, exactly. But like
Unless-
actually being a part of the community is
Unless
totally
that person
different.
is sitting at 49 viewers or 49 follows and needs that one extra follow to get to affiliate, right? Like, that's the only time it could possibly make a difference.
I mean,
And
yeah,
every other
but
time it's just padding numbers.
Yeah.
most of it's padding numbers. Like you can be at 500 followers or 5,000 followers, and it's not going to make a difference if you're still streaming to 2 people, which
I think-
I have seen actually.
Oh yeah, I think we've all seen that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And the worst part is, I think where I almost said younger streamers, newer streamers. Can we call them younger streamers? Like streamers who are just starting out.
The
Baby
children,
streamers.
baby streamers.
Streamers, yeah. Freshly baked streamers. I think where fresh streamers kind of fall for that, especially like on Twitter, right? Is you'll see one of these follow for follow threads, right? That are saying like, oh, post your link here, everybody follow each other, right? And there will be 50, 100, 500 people replying to that thread offhandedly, just, oh, here's my Twitch link, right? And none of that's going to matter because, again, no one's actually going to come watch you. It's just, it's a click and a follow button, right? But that big kind of response to that thread might somebody will look at it and go, hey, maybe this actually does work. There's a lot of people replying. Yeah, there's a lot of people replying, but like Hylian said, it's all like literally the most surface level you can get. There literally is not anything less you could do.
It is literally a button click that costs no money and takes no thought.
Yeah.
And in the end, has no effect.
It's more work to unfollow someone than just to leave them as a follow, right?
Right.
I guess you get that tiny little dopamine hit, right? When you see that follow number go up one, boop. But like that's not gonna carry you.
The followers don't matter is a pretty big one. It's a good way to let you know if you're visible and people like what you're doing. Like if people unfollow you, so what? Just move. Like who cares? People
there are
are
a million reasons why someone's going to unfollow you, and it's not because they don't like you. It's just like a million things.
Yeah, it could
And
be
sometimes
that we
even
just have so
Twitch
many
just
people
does that.
pop up.
Yeah.
And,
Twitch-
sometimes Twitch just like
it does.
auto unfollows people.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Like,
it's more
unfollows
something
are
that I've definitely like followed people that I'm sure that I have, and then I'll go to their stream and then like, I'm not following you. How is this possible?
Mm-hmm.
Twitch, what are you doing? You're drunk.
Yeah.
Like it can be disheartening for like an early streamer to like see the number go down at all, but don't ever get hung up on that. Like that's not a big deal at all.
Follows don't matter. It's active follows, which is kind of a different metric than total follows.
Yeah.
As long as people are stopping into your stream and following while you're live, you're doing something right. If everyone stopped watching your stream, you need to assess that, right? If all you can do is get people to come in and follow and then they never hang out and they never say anything or they don't respond to you, then you need to assess that. These things can help you make decisions about your content and your strategy, but it's being hung up on one person unfollowing the stream or 10. You could turn on your stream and get hundreds of follows and they're not even real. They may be bots and you don't even know it. And then
Shh, the bots have gone away.
Twitch clears
Don't
the
tell
bots.
them.
And then you lose 100 followers. It's gonna happen. Follows they're not really the metric that you need to worry about. It is
A follow is a bookmark. A follow.
Yeah.
What a follow should say to you is, this person. You like. What's the phrase from Django? Like, you have my curiosity, but now you have my attention. Like, it's like the follow is the curiosity bit, right? You've piqued somebody's interest just enough that they're clicking that button that said, "I'll come back to this later. I want to have this here for later," right? So you got to take it from there.
And so sometimes I will follow people who raid me that I've never heard of and be like, I should check out their stream sometime, and then just never check out their stream. I'm not even going to lie. It's totally with good intentions.
There's not enough
and I
time
think that
in the
happens
day.
to me too, where I'm like, I'm just going to pop that follow just so I can see who this person is that raided me, and then I just never end up checking them out.
Or you end up there 3 months later, you're like, "Whoops, I meant to
follow
look
this
at this guy."
person?
Yeah, right.
So in a similar vein on this topic, there's one last place that Twitch can be toxic, and that's your own chat. And this is probably where we're going to close this whole episode out on this topic.
Yes.
The newer streamer and even the seasoned streamer can feel like everyone is valuable. Everyone who stops by, every viewer, every chat, everybody who says something, even the trolls. And I went through this. I was reluctant to weed the chat, pull the weeds and get rid of the people that were toxic. I wanted to just convert people into, I believe everybody has it in them to be nice and cool and fun. And, I'm going to give everybody a chance. And there's still somewhat of that. Like, you do kind of want to give people the benefit of the doubt and a chance. But also at the same time, you have to be totally willing to remove the trolls and remove the toxic people. Your own chat should not be a place of toxicity. And go ahead.
There's a level of toxicity where at that point it's not worth it, right? The stress that it causes not only you but other viewers is not worth keeping that one person around. Even if that person has been very supportive up to that point, right? Either with their time or their monetary support or anything like that. There is definitely a level of toxicity that if it gets to that, you need to be like, hey, this is not allowed anymore. I can't have this,
Right.
And much like streamer coaches, right? You sometimes you get a viewer, a longtime viewer who starts acting weird, and it's like you're like, oh well, thought I knew what this person was all about, right? But it turns out you don't. And it can be very difficult especially for new streamers to be like, well, I need you to stop now. I need you to leave.
It's difficult when you feel pretty connected with people because if you're a good streamer, you're starting to feel like you are getting connected to your community, and you know these people, and so it can be a difficult thing. It can definitely be a difficult thing, and it's going to be just more difficult if you let the toxicity just live in your chat overall. Unless that's like your whole thing, like unless the chat is just like a giant meme of disgusting weirdness, and like that's maybe what you're running.
Meme streams, that's not a thing.
But
like it has to fit the vibe of the community that's in there, right? Like if everybody is kind of memeing about everything and somebody comes in and memes the same way, they're going to be received differently than if everybody is like pretty chill and calm and wholesome, I guess.
Yeah,
and then somebody comes in with the same attitude as the meme stream, and then it's going to be it's about reading the room like we talked about last week.
Yeah.
But
I think it would be good for us to kind of define this too, because trolley behavior is more obvious, but it could also just be somebody who is taking over in ways, or argumentative, or just like killing the vibe that you don't like, totally not what you're expecting your stream to be like. And it can be easy for you because, oh, this person's always there, but then all of a sudden they're really argumentative and they want to talk about whatever contentious thing, the Biden stuff or Trump or whatever it is, whatever's going on in your universe when you're listening to this podcast. And you have somebody in the chat who just wants to take up and control what's going on. And maybe it's just somebody who's always posting videos from YouTube, and they're like, watch this video. And they're just trying to be really controlling of your stream. Or maybe it's how they react to new viewers in the chat. Somebody comes in, they say, oh, hey, I love this game. And they're just like, they don't like it. So they're like, why? Why do you like this game? This game's so stupid. And you're
There's different levels of toxicity, right?
Yeah.
Because like we definitely all see that, like where like you'll have a stream that's going on, and a streamer starts having an interaction with somebody, and then somebody else will pipe in and go like, well, get back to the game, streamer. Get back to what you were doing. It's like, why would you say something like that? Like, like why are you trying to kill the mood, right? And that's a very different level of toxicity than somebody who just comes outright and starts pasting copy pasta in your TTS or whatever. Like there's different levels of toxicity, and and how much of it how much of it you can allow to happen before you end up on live stream fails, right? Because that's basically that's the end goal, right? Circle. That's where you end up. Yeah, full circle.
No.
Well, yeah, like you are the streamer, which puts you in charge of how the stream should be run, right? And that includes the kinds of things you'll tolerate in chat. And that also would fall onto your moderators to know the kinds of things you will and won't put up with in chat, generally speaking. And so when, like, you can tell, like, if somebody comes in and they're just being kind of abrasive and they're starting to take over chat, like, everybody else kind of stops talking. Because the thing is, most of the time, people won't speak up unless the person is, like, actively, like, unless the other person is the kind of person who would speak up. But generally, people won't say anything if somebody starts taking over chat with negativity, right? And you got to be able to recognize when enough is enough. You have to have some sort of rule for yourself. Like, I'll give them 2 or 3 chances to chill out and be normal, or you got to put them in a timeout or a ban or whatever. Like,
you go into the drunk tank, yeah.
Timeout, yeah. Timeout. Timeouts are good.
Well, it's like, you know, like someone in chat had said, like, you know, I've literally done this too, where I've literally left the stream even if I know the streamer, right? If the chat gets too wild, right, or gets too aggressive, it's like that's not what I want to be there for. And I'm sure that's, you know, a lot of people who watch streams generally don't want to be there for, you know, that kind of thing. Well, you might be like, listen, you might be looking for a stream that has drama because that's what you like to watch, but the majority of people don't like to have, you know, craziness going on. They just want to enjoy the stream that they're watching, right? So anyone who gets too aggressive in chat or too memey, not necessarily even aggressive, too memey, right? If they go too far with the memes, right? If there's half an hour of TTS going on, that's just like the same meme over and over and over, right? At some point, everyone has a limit to where they're gonna be like, okay, I'm done. This is where I've reached my meme density. I have to get out now.
Yeah. And
critical meme mass.
Critical meme density, yeah.
But again, that falls on you as the streamer. Like, if people are just doing a bunch of TTS memes, and you just, like, mute alerts for a minute so that they stop.
So they can't do it. Yeah. Now they're just giving you money and nothing's happening.
Win-win.
And then they'll stop.
Or, you know, or dress and be like, you know, hey guys, I know we're having fun, but, you know, can we, you know, dial it back a bit? It's okay to, like, interact with people as if they're people, right? I think they're your viewers. Treat them as such, right? Like, it's okay to be like, hey, listen, we're having fun, but I think we're taking it too far. Let's slow down. If anyone is reasonable enough or I should say, if anyone's unreasonable enough that request is too much for them, then they probably don't belong in your chat anyway, right?
And if you have a mod that's really good at recognizing, like, who's going to be toxic and need a ban, that can be helpful. Yes. It can also be kind of detrimental. For me personally, I always knew, just like JJ's saying in the chat, I always knew, oh no, I'm going to have to ban this person. Like, I always knew.
You get a sense, yep.
Immediately.
The longer, like a bandar.
Yeah, the longer you stream, the more you get used to who's going to need a ban. Oh boy, here it comes. Yep.
When you're...
Discord's breaking up again.
You could be...
Hold on, Snazzy, we can't hear you. I got to try and break the entire podcast one more time. Let's go to Central. It's the only one we haven't done. And we're all disconnected, and
Snazzy's looking rough. Snazzy's looking rough.
Oh no, okay. South. Let's do south. Oh. Snazzy, can you hear us? Oh no. Well, hopefully he shows back up. Yep, he's gone. He's a goner.
Oh boy,
we lost him.
He's gone.
Yeah, it can be very difficult to. I don't know. I have a hard time with my emotions about it. Like I immediately get frustrated that I know I'm gonna have to ban you, and it'd be better for me to do it, but I know I have to wait until the moment is right, and I'm always like pre-defeated, which is bad. instead of being like, okay, I'm just gonna have to deal with this person and move on, I'm like, it's another person I'm gonna have to ban. And having that perspective is dangerous. It's not gonna help your stream to be all negative about it. So be careful going and try to approach this stuff with a healthier perspective and attitude, where you're just gonna kind of accept, okay, this is how streaming is. I'm gonna have to remove the troll. But it can be difficult. I think it's difficult no matter what. Like, if you don't know you're going to have to ban people, it can, like, come out of nowhere. And you're going to have those moments, too. But if they're all coming out of nowhere, that's its own difficulty. And if you know you're going to have to ban everybody that you're going to have to ban, that's also got its own difficulty. There's really nothing simple about taking care of your chat. But it's worth doing. If you can see that it's valuable for your viewers and for your stream experience, then you can do it. It's easier to do it with the right motivation. Try to protect your community, protect your chat, so that there's, a good enough vibe for people to hang out and have a good time. Most people are watching Twitch to relax. And you don't want it to be everybody who's trying to relax is going to go somewhere else because one dude is not letting everybody kind of chill and hang out, have a good time. So, I don't know. Find good mods. Is that the advice?
Yes, having a mod that you vibe with really well, that understands, is really helpful. So I just so happen to have my life partner's my mod, right? So that works really nicely.
That helps.
But finding that mod that's really going to be, your advocate. Because you can't always even catch when shady stuff's going down in chat. You might be fighting a boss, or chat might be moving quick, and you may not be able to even be the gatekeeper. Right? So you have to be really thoughtful about that and have some trust from that perspective, where cutting out the toxicity is uncomfortable short term for a lot of people, but it's important long term, right? Or even we kind of enjoy toxicity short term too, right? And that's kind of a theme too. We do, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like when you drive past a car crash, you want to look at the car crash. You don't want to be part of the car crash, but you still want to look at it.
And that's
right?
why Extreme Fails works.
Yeah,
that's why.
Exactly. So, and that's something to work on, right? There's kind of two themes that we've really talked about today. Is how to be smart about not falling into the pitfalls of putting your money in places that are MLMs basically, but also how to not rubberneck and not make space for that toxicity, because short term it might be interesting or dramatic or whatever, but long term it's not good for you.
Well, and I think as Meat said, I was about to say this before my Discord disconnected, but like you don't always notice it either, because as a streamer you are juggling a lot of balls, right? You're focused on a lot of different things all at once. So yeah, it definitely helps to have someone there who can be like, hey, listen, there's toxicity happening more than you think. Hey, you should do something about this, And a good mod goes a long way.
I would rather someone be too quick to ban than too late. Yeah. Like I'd rather be like, oh, you didn't have to ban him for that, and you can go ahead and unban him. And
you can always unban somebody, and apologize. Yeah.
So in some ways, it's a good idea. This is more actionable advice, I guess. Form a relationship with your mods to be like, if you think they need to be banned, ban them. And if I correct you, don't take it personally. Just, it's my stream. I might be a little more lax than you about it, but I'd rather you ban and then me tell you, you don't have to ban them for that. And you'd be like, oh, okay. And then unban them. And don't try to have that kind of relationship with your mods. It'd be better that's easier than trying to have a meeting with your mods and be like, you guys aren't banning enough. And
well, and it's so awkward when
quotas, yeah.
It's so awkward when you're streaming and you're like, hey, can you ban that person?
Yeah.
That's really awkward, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, all right, we got to get the ban hammer out, guys. But sometimes that kind of disrupts the feel of the stream too. So definitely having that toxicity meter very well in tuned with your stream, it allows you to maintain what you're doing too.
Yeah.
Right? And that's so important. If you have something going on, you don't want to disrupt that to be like, oh, time to ban, time to be mean,
I think there's something to be said that if that person is toxic enough to have disrupted the stream anyway, at that point, just make a production of it. make that ban just the silliest thing that anyone's going to witness today.
Yeah, that's true. I one time I was ending a stream and I had someone come in and like challenge me to talk to them about like religious stuff. They literally said, "I challenge." I have a clip of this, but they're like, "What?" And then I was like, "This is not what stream is about. You know, I'm not gonna like debate people about God and stuff. Like, that's not what we're here to do." And he's like, "Scared?" Question mark. It's like there's all kinds.
Banned.
Yeah. Banned? Exclamation point. There's all kinds of situations. One of the things that I did too for my community was I made secret mods. This is kind of a fun thing. You can, yeah, like people who didn't have a sword in chat, but I made commands that allowed they were allowed to use the command in a whisper to my bot, which would then ban the person. The bot would ban the person.
Oh, interesting.
So people wouldn't even know that mods are there. Right? Like, because it got to the point where it was like, I would turn on my stream and I'd have like 15 viewers and I'd have 15 swords. And I'm like, this is too many mods. Like, you guys are all mods. I'm like, I'm going to convert some of you into secret mods, you know? So
I think, can mods take off their sword these days and not display it?
I don't know.
No, they must always wield it with glory.
Yeah, I think they have to.
Yeah, you have to have it on.
Yeah. You can turn it off. Somebody in chat says yes.
You can? You can remove the sword?
That's what I thought.
Really?
How do you remove the sword? Oh, wait, let me see.
I'm gonna go on Twitter and write a very strongly worded thread to Twitch about how they need to give my mods the ability to hide.
That identity. I don't know. Maybe you can.
Maybe. You guys are all mods in this chat, so am I. We could all try.
How to turn it off.
Yeah, I'm trying to mess with my chat identity and I can't do anything with my sword.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. But, yeah, whatever it is. If you can't turn off the sword, you can give people... There are workarounds with bots to be able to give people the... the power to ban through other means, through commands and stuff like that. So...
Right.
And not that you need to do that. Hopefully, like it's okay to have everybody who have a sword and stuff. I was doing it because I had a lot of females mods, and then they would get weird messages and stuff. And I was like, maybe better if you don't have a sword, and that actually did help for some reason. First, it was like the sword made people more comfortable, like being creepy. I don't know why. Why is that?
I never got hate mail or like hate messages until I modded for Jared for Subnautica. That was the first time somebody actually like came at me in a DM because I told them to behave. It was great.
That's and that's learning the gaming community for a particular game too, right?
Yeah.
What happens too.
Yeah. So let's do our summary and end this because this has been quite a long one. But
Yes.
So we started with Twitch can look like it's the most toxic place ever if all you're paying attention to is live stream fails, and things like streamer Twitter. And then be very careful with streamer coaches and communities that even tout things like IQ. There are other communities out there that act like they're IQ. Our community, and they're more lurk for lurk or follow for follow, and you don't really get that until you join their community and people are like, oh, by the way, in order to be in this community you have to accumulate points by hanging out in people's streams while they're live, and then you can turn those points into time allowed in the Discord or some kind of thing like that. Be very careful with these streamer networks that have all kinds of requirements. Hopefully, the good ones that are out there, you can just join the Discord and ignore it forever until you need it. That's kind of how we deal with the IQ community. You can say nothing until you need to say something. And you don't have to do anything. You can just, once you're a part of the community, you're a part of the community, and hopefully it helps you when you need help. That's what you want to look for, something like that. And, oh man, be careful of YouTubers and bad advice on YouTube. If you're going to watch YouTube videos that give you advice, watch a ton of videos. you go through a ton of them and try to figure out why someone might be right and why someone might be wrong, and just add it to your pile of thinking, critical thinking. Um, and the last, follow for follow doesn't work. Lurk for lurk doesn't work. And it's against TOS or community guidelines. Don't panic.
An addendum. Anyone who asks you to what's the word to be only on their team, exclusivity and things like that.
Ooh.
Run far away. Run
yes, this
very
is a good
away.
one.
Read your contracts.
if the community you're joining, if the team you're joining wants your exclusivity, if it's a requirement that you're not on any other teams, this is true of sponsorships, so many things. Like there's conflicts of interest. Obviously, if you get a sponsor that's for a product and there's a competitor, you don't want to get that. That you can't have that sponsor. But a Twitch team and a Twitch community is not a sponsor. If they're asking for exclusively, you can only be on their team. That's a big red flag. I would be very careful with that community. There shouldn't be any exclusivity between teams on Twitch or communities on Twitch, especially if what they care about is you succeeding.
Right.
That's a good one, Sassy. I'm glad you brought that up because that's something we've talked about before. It needs to be discussed more. Joining IQ, you're allowed to be a part of any other communities that you want to be, just as long as they're not breaking TOS like a lurk for lurk or follow for follow artificial growth thing. And we're not going to kick you out of IQ if you do that. We're just going to be like, why, dude? Don't do that. So
why you do this?
Why you being so toxic?
So yeah, that's a good one to pay attention to. Don't worry about your follower count. That was one of the main things that we wanted to talk about. And take care of your chat. So, do you guys have any closing thoughts on this? Snazzy, let's start with you.
I mean, aside from what we all already mentioned, just think critically. Always analyze. Don't be afraid to overanalyze. Sleep on it, as they say. Like, think about it for 3 days before you take any actions. It's better to be careful and slow than to be fast and rash. Mm-hmm. That would be my closing umbrella.
In regards to which part?
In regards to anything really, but especially when it comes to taking advice from people, right?
Okay.
Definitely, like read a sentence twice. Don't assume you understood it the first time you read it. And if somebody does give you advice, think on it for a little bit. Don't immediately, just because like they are seemingly coming from a place of authority.
Even us.
Even us.
Food for thought.
Don't immediately,
just ignore us.
Don't immediately
We
take
don't
it
know what we're
as well, no, just don't immediately take it as, oh, this person said it, therefore it has to be true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, actually sit down and critically analyze anything that's being given to you for any reason.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice. That's the best advice, to be honest, because you can take that moving forward forever. Pickles?
True. There's no magic button to make things suddenly work for you, right? Like there's no one thing that as soon as you get this, you're going to be a success in anything really. And it's especially obvious when people are trying to charge you money for that kind of stuff because they're looking to just gain off of your lack of knowledge. You can find pretty much everything you need to have a good, successful stream for free. You can find advice for free. You can find overlays for free, alerts for free, pretty much everything for free to have a good professional stream.
Except maybe like microphones and stuff like that.
Yeah, except for like microphone. Like
but they can be very inexpensive. You streamed with a USB Rock Band or whatever.
Yeah,
SingStar.
It was a Wii U karaoke microphone.
Yeah.
So like, you can get advice, but look at a lot of advice. Don't just look at like one or two people's things, and especially if they're recommending equipment, see who they're sponsored by, because then that's also a biased opinion on that. So just do your due diligence, I guess, in your research. Don't spend money needlessly.
Eat your meats.
I mean, we've said most of it. All I gotta say is, groove is in the heart, right? You have to figure out what's going to work for yourself. You can't set up a routine based on what other people say is going to work, and you shouldn't pay for that routine, right? You have to. This is one of the few places where I think doing your own research is okay because there's no scientific literature that supports it. Do your own research. Be thoughtful. Realize that this is an industry where people are much more likely to make money trying to help other people get famous, and the person trying to get famous fails. And this has been going on since being famous was a thing. So it's not going anywhere, right?
True.
So don't be that person, right? Think about, what is this person's intention? What am I going to get out of this? How is this different than resources that are already available for me? Is this person actually fulfilling a need that I have? And also realizing that once you level the playing field with things like sound quality, video quality, all of that basic stuff, you got a lottery ticket, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just being thoughtful about that, trying to be positive about what you're doing to enrich your own life. Stop rubbernecking, do your thing, and hope you win the lottery.
Yes.
And groove is in the heart.
Okay, that was good. Good episode. Thank you guys. Really appreciate everybody being here. And I want to remind our viewers that they can see this again on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify. Friday, I'm going to be doing just chatting style podcasty stream for all IQ members. You can join chat and voice chat and hang out with me, and we can discuss these kinds of topics further. It's just kind of a round table open discussion about things. We also do channel reviews where I will go over your channel. So if you want your channel to be reviewed, you can message me if you're an IQ in Discord and let me know. I will put you on the list for being reviewed. And let's see, what are the other things? Oh yeah, check out our YouTube videos. I've got some videos on how to do some fun stuff, setting up OBS and different things like that. So, oh man, I think that's everything. Thank you guys so much for joining us in the podcast. As always, you can join us live on Twitch for these podcasts if you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform or listening to this through YouTube. You can catch us live on Twitch Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific. That's the episode. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. We will see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Follow doesn't work. Don't do it.